Now let's do a hands-on demo. I'm on Visual Studio Code here, and this is what the sample project looks like. So it automatically creates all these folders. For example, the test folder with the test script here. In this case, I created one with JavaScript, as you can see. Also, there is a script to deploy the smart contract and a sample smart contract, which is the lock contract. The most important part of Hardhat is understanding the configuration file. You basically export different objects. There is the default network, which is configured to Hardhat at the moment. And in the networks object, I have two different networks. One is Hardhat and the other one is Conflux eSpace mainnet. I configured it with this URL, which is the RPC network endpoint. But you can use other network endpoints. This is the chain ID and the accounts object, that is the private key I'm using to deploy the contract. This can also be stored in a .env file or in a .secret file, so you can keep that sensitive information more secure. Then you have the Solidity version, the paths, and the configurations for the tests. So this is basically what the sample project looks like. The only difference is that I added this part here. By just adding this on the configuration file, you will already be able to deploy your contracts on Conflux. Here we have the sample test script. We will not go through every detail, but you can see that you can basically use the expect command to test or assert different conditions in your smart contract. To run the test, you basically run npx hardhat test, and you can see that the Solidity file compiled. And all the different tests that were run, the deployment, withdrawals, some event emissions, and all the tests passed. Then I mentioned the Solidity coverage tool. By running npx hardhat coverage, we can execute the coverage tool task. You can see it also runs all the tests. It also compiles your contract in case it hasn't been compiled yet. And then you can see in this chart here that 100% of statements and 100% of branches, functions, and lines of codes have been covered by the tests. It will also create this coverage report with all the detailed information on your contract tests. Basically, you can see in case you have a line of code that is not covered, it will be displayed here, so you can easily identify which parts of your contracts are not being tested. This will show you how much of your code is covered by tests. After you have tested and compiled your contract, the next step is the deployment of your contract. Now I have set up Hardhat as the default network. Hardhat includes its own network for testing, so let's deploy our contract here. We'll recompile the contract, and then you can see it was deployed. And it showed this message here. This is the address in which the contract was deployed, and this is the amount of CFX logged, which is part of this script here. Now let's deploy on Conflux. One way to do this is to introduce the network parameter on the command line. And the other way is to just configure Conflux as the default network. Then, by running the same script, we will basically deploying it to Conflux Network using this account. It will take a little bit longer, but after this it will also display the address of the smart contract that was deployed, and we will be able to see it in Conflux scan. So here it is. Now let's copy this and let's go to Conflux scan. Just input the contract address and you can see it here. the contract was deployed 27 seconds ago. So this is basically how you can test, compile, and deploy a smart contract to Conflux eSpace using Hardhat.